I actually played some 2K19 on Switch over at my cousin's house the other day. And I forgot that they have like the all-timer teams, so I was the all-time Magic. So yeah, I had like Turkoglu, Dwight Howard, Shaquille O'Neal.
Oh, shoot.
Like just all the best players, and he was the all-time Lakers. I'm so bad at that game, dude. Like we went into overtime, and the final score was like 42 to like whatever,
Yes.
I cannot make shots. It's like ungodly how bad.
Speaking of March Madness, God.
That's fantastic.
man.
I can't watch.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Pursuing Pixels. My name's Kevin Portelli, and I'm here tonight with John Hines.
Hello.
And Randall Nolery.
Hey, folks.
And we are back, as always, to talk about some video games. And I feel like we were going to record a session last week, but John and I were like, you know what? We've been putting off getting a gaming session like we've been talking about with we mention our band all the time. John and I play in a band called Boss Fight, and now that we're spread across the country, essentially, we're always like, oh, we got a game, but we always like kind of throw it out there and say, oh, we got a game, guys. We got to try to sync up next week. And then we just kind of let it fizzle and never do. So we're like, no, let's put one on the books this time. Let's actually set something up and play some games online. And then we're always like kind of thinking we're going to play on Switch. And then we're like, oh, wait, Mikey doesn't have Switch Online. So what do we want to play instead? So let's download Fall Guys and Rocket League. But we ended up playing some other stuff instead. So why don't you take the lead on this one, John, although we both obviously played some of this, and we'll just talk some online gaming as well. And part of me is like, what does this podcast become, man? We went from like retro and indie games to now we're like esports, Nintendo.
Dude, you
online
save it for the casts is more than making up for like the average game that is being played on this podcast.
I love it. No, and I love it. Because I've said a few times on some of the episodes recently, I can't remember if it was regular episodes or save it for the cast or just like, startup discussion, but I've really liked kind of leaning a little more conversational with some of our episodes and stuff lately, as opposed to like, oh, let's just go down the laundry list of games we've been playing. I mean, we do that too, but it's fun to just kind of like, oh, let's just discuss stuff and see where it goes a little bit with a little bit of an outline.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, why don't we talk about some of the multiplayer stuff we've been doing?
Yeah, so we played a little cross-play game that was cross-platform called Overwatch 2, which had you ever played Overwatch 1, Kevin?
I had not, no, because it was one that I was like, I was on the fence, and it was like by the time it was, because Randall used to play Overwatch every now and then. I would see him when I would be on my PS4, like, oh man, Randall plays that a decent amount, and like part of me would be like, oh, I want to pick it up, but it was so long after the fact of like the game, even though Randall still played it here and there, it was like, the game's been out forever, yeah, it's still supported, but do I really want to pay $30 for a game that I'm going to play like once or twice online? Like, I'll just stick to my Rocket League and like these free to play games that are actually at the time, Rocket League might have even been a game that I had paid for at the time, because it was originally a purchasable game for like $20 or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
However many decades ago.
Right. So it's like, part of me was just like, okay, I don't need to like buy, because I just know how I am with online stuff. I so often think like, oh, the premise of it's cool, but I never play even games that aren't online, but that are just kind of multiplayer focused. I just tend to like, I want to play it all the time, but I never do. So,
well, Kevin, I've got great news for you. It's a free to play game now. So.
Exactly. So between that and the crossplay, I was like, okay, cool. We can all make this work. We don't have to worry about Nintendo Switch Online, even though we got to talk Mikey into getting that Switch Online.
Oh, there's plenty of games that I've been trying to convince Mikey to get on the Switch for however long he's had it, but in any event, we all downloaded Overwatch 2 and started playing it, and Mikey was very patient with us, and our fifth teammates were often not very patient with us.
Constantly a revolving door of fifth teammates.
And I feel bad for them. So we're trying to get some of our friends like Randall and other friends that we know who play Overwatch 2 and to maybe round out the team so that we're at least all floundering and not subjecting
not letting down strangers every game. Yeah.
I'm game.
Yeah, but I really enjoyed it because it's the kind of multiplayer shooter that I enjoy more, I think, because like we had played Apex Legends, we've talked about it on the podcast before, and I'm really not that into like ones where you have to build your arsenal, or you're collecting different weapons or like armor or items throughout the game, and each one's different, and then it's a lot of like one-on-one shootouts. And I'm not a very good FPS player in general, so it's just usually ends very abruptly for like a lot of uneventful, just like scrounging around on maps and running away from battles, and then getting into a battle and immediately losing. So this was way more my speed, and I had already been told like what the premise of 2 was, and Randall, maybe you can speak more to how this is, because I know that there's a big difference between 2 and 1, at least from people who have played 1 competitively or like a lot, in that like there's, if we're using terms like time to kill or whatever, like it's a lot like harder to get a kill in Overwatch compared to other like shooter multiplayer games.
Yeah.
And like it's Overwatch 2 specifically is built around like teams being together and like you working in concert, like all as a team to make yourself like kind of in this like standstill with the other team until one of you messes up, and then you can use that. It's
almost like a tug of war a little bit.
Yeah.
At least
over
the 2.
territory.
I don't know if there are more modes than the 2, because it seemed like it was mostly the 2 modes of like capture this territory, capture the flag, kind of King of the Hill sort of mode. And then this other mode that was like kind of the same, but you were like kind of pushing
a payload,
this cart along like a track. That was same idea. You just had to like be in the radius and, within a certain radius of that cart, and then have no enemies, from the other team near that, and kind of defend it and then just keep pushing it along. So I don't know. Are there more modes? Like, is there just like a regular like deathmatch mode and whatever? Were we like specifically playing team modes, or?
We were specifically playing team modes. I know there are like different arcade modes like deathmatch and other things, but like those are
because we were playing that in like the in between, like the just like the warm up rounds were like just deathmatch. Yeah, that's true.
But the first Overwatch would do a lot of like seasonal special modes, kind of like Rocket League does too, right? From time to time. Yeah. Same type of idea there.
Yeah, but it was a good change of pace for how I typically play in like multiplayer FPSs, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was super fun to like try out different characters and like different roles. Like I was mostly playing support and tank, and every once in a while like playing damage, but for the most part, like I was way more content on, either just sitting by and soaking up damage or healing teammates, and it was fun to like actually feel like tangibly like I was contributing to a team.
Yeah.
So like that was super fun.
Yes.
That's a good point, because like I had a slightly different experience. Like I definitely enjoy this game and had a good time with it, but based on like our texting with the the band group thread and whatever post game, I was like, oh man, everybody seemed to like this maybe a little bit more than me. Like everybody the next day was like, when are we hopping on again? And even I sent a text today like, hey, let's lock in another day. I'm definitely like looking forward to playing more of this, but I'm always like, when I play multiplayer games, like even when I've been playing, which we might talk about some Mario Kart as well, playing some of the new like DLC tracks, but like when I've been playing, I've talked about it a bunch, like when I've been playing with my friends back home here, that like they hit every fucking shortcut ever. Like it's not casual Mario Kart. Like you are on your toes just to come in last place of, out of all of them. Like I'm finally like beating the computer players now, but still it's like,
get that bullet bill.
Yeah, exactly. That's like saving me half the time. Yeah. It's like, but yeah, like not knowing all the shortcuts. So it's like, okay, I really got to like, this isn't a leisurely hang with my friends online. This is like, I'm like paying attention and like, I'm thinking about like, cause like I kind of was like, oh, I like this rocket launcher character. And like, but part of me in the back of my head is like, is Mikey pissed at me? Am I the right character? Am I rounding out this team properly? So I do, there's part of me that's like, as much as I like this game, I don't like the aspect of like having to be so cooperative and having to be so like in sync with one another. I kind of like to like, I almost wish we were just playing like deathmatch and like, oh, let's just run around and kill each other or kill computer players or random people. Like that's just my preferred mode of playing and like hanging out. Cause like, I feel like we even said this, somebody in the text, I think you might've said it, John, like, man, I feel like we didn't actually talk or catch up at all. We just like talked about the game, which is cool in a way. But I was like, part of me, especially since we're split across the country now, I'm like, part of this is like, this is us hanging out, guys. So, part of me is like, oh man, we didn't even really hang, because I know we were talking about, hey, let's brainstorm some ideas of how we're going to do some remote recording sessions with the band being across the country.
And then we did it.
We talked about it like right before we hung up. Like, oh yeah, by the way, Tink, the guy that we've recorded with in the past, like he said, if we record on our phones, it should work. So let's do it. But we didn't really actually talk about it. Like, hey, what are we doing with this remote stuff? So like, part of me was like, yeah, this is a really fun game. And I do think the next session we have, but me personally, I'll have more fun because I'm like, okay, I know some of the characters. I've unlocked a few more.
That's, exactly it, where I was like, you know what? That was also our first time playing that game. So I think, like,
and it's intense.
It is intense, but like now
Very
that we know like the different modes and like we at least have a handle on like how the game is played in terms of like being a team and like not running off on your own and like being like, I'm going to try to kill as many people as I can and then just getting picked off because you're 5-on-1 from the other team. So like I think that like as we get more comfortable and like hopefully more competent with the game, that like we'll be able to have a conversation.
Well, and I love that it's 5-player teams, even though we weren't able to fill out the whole team ourselves. But you were mentioning Apex Legends. I can't remember if that was during the podcast or before, but you were mentioning that, and that's teams of 3. So with our band of 4, it's like, oh man, we can't really round out a team. We have too many people.
Right.
So it's kind of nice. I'd rather have one short and be looking to fill that slot than have, not enough or have too many have too many and be like, oh, now we got to just play something else that we don't want to play or figure out some half-ass way to play this game. Hopefully we can talk Randall into playing with us. You said you fired this up a little bit.
Literally last night. Yeah, literally last night I finally launched Overwatch 2 and I didn't realize too that apparently it was going to sync up my old like PS4 progress, and I grabbed it on Xbox at some point too and played it a bit on there, like when I had the Xbox One X. So I was like, it's going to combine those accounts and give me progress on stuff. Like, oh shoot, okay, that's nice.
That's awesome.
Because it locks a lot of the characters at the beginning unless you have like save data.
But it does a pretty good job of.
Too.
John mentioned this too when we were playing, though. It does a pretty good job. Like we played, I don't know what, for maybe 2 hours that night. And like I unlocked probably 5, 6, 7 characters by the end of it. So it's like I got a good 10 or 12 characters I can pick from. Still plenty more to unlock. But I was like, okay, I don't feel like I'm just playing as Ken or Ryu. And those are my only 2 options. I got some other characters to choose from.
I will say what struck me immediately was like, oh shoot, this like character roster got expanded. Like to me, like I know they were kind of iterating and adding characters over the original Overwatch for a while, and I kind of kept up on that. But it was still like a relatively not small roster. By the end of it, it was like a normal fighting game's worth of roster, right? But now it's like, shoot, this is like a huge amount of characters they've got here in these different classes. And what stood out to me is like a change that I really liked, and maybe they added this at the end of the original Overwatch, but when I was playing, I don't remember it, is like based on the role that you play, it shows like a counter of how long you'll have to wait to get into like a random match. And it's like, if support, it'll be like 1 minute. And, because a lot of people don't want to be healers, but like John, I have no problem playing that role. And in fact, you can still do a lot of death dealing as a healer.
Especially if you're in the pack with your whole team.
Yeah, let alone like you feel good because you're supporting the entire it's like a little bit more complicated in a way because you're supporting the entire team while like getting your own hits in and kind of flipping between a couple of different modes. I like to play as Moira, which like wasn't a character in the beginning of the first Overwatch, but got added as like an expansion character towards the end of when I was playing, and I got really into playing as her. Thankfully, they carried that over, and I'm like, oh, it took me a few rounds. I'm like, oh, here it comes back. The cobwebs are getting dusted off. I'm getting a 5-kill streak in my 3rd round. I'm feeling good.
Nice. Okay, Randall. We need to add Randall to our team now.
So that felt good. But
I was like getting excited, like, oh, somebody sent me a like thumbs up, and I was like, oh, it's just John, friend requesting me.
But yeah, a lot of it just seems like really just kind of polishing, right? That iterating and polishing over time, like John was talking about earlier. It's like that's what Overwatch 2 feels like to me, which is good because then I can hop back on the bike and I'll be wobbly at first, but then over time I'm like, oh yeah, this is a bike, I can ride this, and then that's good. So now it's just like, oh, they've just added a bunch of characters to this game I'm already familiar with, and it works on my modern system. That's fun.
Yeah.
And on the subject of iterating and polishing just a good formula, the other esports game that I've been playing lately is Splatoon 3, which I've mentioned. It was like, oh yeah, maybe I'll play more of this game. And then for whatever reason, like I've been switching between Overwatch 2 and Splatoon 3 like nonstop recently. Nice. And oh boy, is that a fun game. Splatoon 3, what a good game. It's basically
How is
just
that working,
Splatoon 2.
juggling between the two? Because they probably have like similar-ish control schemes. Like they're both kind of twin stick. Like, are you having any trouble swapping between the two, or just kind of second nature?
I mean, I'm definitely better at Splatoon 3 than I am at Overwatch. So the matches like go for a lot quicker because they're always the same length. Well, not always if you're playing ranked, but like they tend to be a lot quicker and more standard length in Splatoon 3. But I think also with like Overwatch, like there would be times where I would be switching between characters based on the team composition.
Yeah.
So like if they already have like 2 support characters or a tank, then you know I'll be switching over to damage. Whereas like in Splatoon 3, I'm just playing the weapons that I want to play, and then that changes what I'm approaching. And man, it's kind of become my relax game, and like the thing that really got me, and it's the same with Overwatch, where it's, you know, you find what you're comfortable with or what like form of gameplay that you like feel like you're contributing the most in a team on. Yeah. And they added a new weapon in Splatoon 3 called the Stringer, which is a bow and arrow, but it shoots out 3 arrows. And if you charge it, then the arrows, instead of spreading out, like all converge onto one point.
Yes.
And it is so fun. And it also covers like if you don't charge it at all, then it's the arrows are fired spread out, and it just covers a lot of area in ink in a really fast like pace. So it's not as good in like getting kills, but guess what? I was bad at getting kills in the first place. So it doesn't matter if I'm not getting them with this weapon, because now I'm basically unkillable, which is infuriating because no enemy can get close enough to me because I just will spam arrows that keep them at a distance. And then
that rangy?
It's that rangy, like
nice,
but like doesn't do, and it does damage, so they can't push forward, right? But they also can't like get to me, so, but I can't do enough damage to kill them. So what I do is I lock up a character until like, and they are so frustrated and can't
4-on-4.
They can't abandon me because that psychology is like, I'm right there, I'm so close. Why can't they kill me? And then another player on my team scoops in and like gets the kill, and it's so good. I get 0 kills every match, but I'm
you're a team player though. You're a role player
on everything, and it feels great. And I'm like,
but Splatoon's not about the kills though necessarily, right? It's about like covering more of the ground, or are there different modes? Like, is there like a deathmatch mode?
It is still covering the most ground, but when there's like a respawn lag, and if you wipe out the team, then you have a bigger opportunity, 5
extra
cover
seconds
more, and then they have to
shorthanded. It's like a power play essentially.
Yep, exactly. It's so Splatoon is a fucking good game. Like,
still no gyro, John?
No
gyro.
No gyro.
Yeah, I thought you were gyro on Splatoon too.
No, he doesn't like the gyro.
No, I only like the gyro
John
for
strikes again. The bow and arrow in Breath of the Wild.
Exactly. Right. I know. Maybe I should turn it back on.
Fine tuning.
No, I absolutely will not. Like, it's just invert that y-axis. That's all I do, baby.
It's a little tempting, like, but knowing that there's stuff that like we can sync up with our friends and play like Overwatch 2 for free without any extra investment. It's like, okay, I'm not going to drop $60 on Splatoon 3 that I'm going to play a few times.
Exactly.
We could play Fall Guys or Rocket League or whatever free to play game for, you know, an off chance.
Make a trip down to Chicago and play the single player mode. Come on, then you'll get your Splatoon fix.
That single player mode looks tempting. That's definitely the thing that got me to buy too, even though I never bought the expansion pass. But
yeah, same boat.
Yeah. But speaking about expansion passes, thankfully Randall was kind enough to add me to his family expansion pass on that Nintendo Switch Online, and I've been very much enjoying those Mario Kart 8 DLC tracks, which I kind of like. Mario Kart 8 was just kind of out of sight, out of mind. Like I had loved the game, never had any problem. Like we played a bunch of it back in like even on the Wii U. I think we played a lot back at my old apartment and just played a bunch of that game even on the Switch when I first got it too. But kind of it was on the back burner, just wasn't a game that I popped in very often. But ever since I've been back home in Michigan, I've mentioned a bunch of times my friends back here have been playing. So like especially when there's like a new DLC update, and this is I think the second batch that's come out since I've been home in the last 6 months. Yeah, maybe the third too. I know.
I feel like it's been more. Because it's 8 total.
I think there's 5. This is the 5th batch total. But I mean, just since I've been home, I think this is the second or third batch. Because yeah, there was one right at Christmas time. Because there was like even a Christmas themed track.
Yeah.
But this batch here, there's 8 new tracks. I think it sounds like you're in the same boat as me. This is maybe the best batch of tracks ever.
The last batch was great too, but man, they just keep upping the ante, and it just I feel like I said this last time too, but like these tracks might be better than the base game tracks. It's crazy.
Including, this is the first time, like, so of the tracks, like when I play with my friends back home here, we're always like, oh, these tracks from Mario Kart Tour are just like way too crazy.
No, they're good.
Way too whatever. But on this new batch, they are like some of my favorite tracks.
They're
great. They're still very crazy, like windy roads and like there's like these kind of flashing red or green arrows that kind of like steer you like, hey, there might be road there, but it's not for this lap. It'll be for the next lap. And like, those are what kind of throw me off. But I feel like once I learn the tracks and whatnot, it'll be like, okay, I already love them, but I really love them. But I mean, they added DK Summit, which is like a downhill skiing kind of level, which is one of the best.
Wii track, right?
They added I think it was a Wii. There were a lot of good tracks on that Mario Kart. That was not your father's Mario Kart on the Wii, as Reggie would say. But
there were 2 DK Summits, wasn't there? Because there's the winter one, and then there was the non-winter one.
There's I don't think it's called DK Summit, but I know which one you're talking about. It's like it was from Double Dash. The DK, it actually might be called DK Summit.
I think it's the same track, but like just one of them is with like the Wii one.
I wonder if you're right. And one's like a skiing.
Yeah.
Oh man, now I really want to know about that.
Oh man, that Double Dash track is so good though.
Yeah, that's a great one too. Yeah,
tracks too. Yeah.
And they added like a couple good Game Boy Advance tracks, or at least one good Game Boy Advance track. But most notably of all, at least to me, they added a brand new track.
They're so good.
And it's a Yoshi's Island track.
Oh, that track it's
amazing. Like the first time we were playing it, we were like, yo, this is like an acid trip. What is happening? Like there's just like all the like the Shy Guys walking on stilts.
It washes over you. It's like an experience.
Like the colors are just out of control.
It's beautiful.
There's just all those like, Yoshi's Island blob looking characters. There's even like a shortcut towards the end of the track where you're like, if you're flying, you go off like one of those blue like ramps. You hit one of those like question mark clouds.
Yes.
And then it opens up like a shortcut ramp path. It's so cool. That's one of my favorite tracks ever.
There's the ring with the sunflowers at the end of it.
Oh yeah, at the end of it. Yeah.
Too, just like Yoshi's
I forgot
Island.
about
It's
that.
Like what a perfect like love letter to that game.
And the coins are different too. It makes like the different sound
with
effect for the Yoshi coins.
Yes.
Oh man, it's like
beautiful.
It's so good. And I will say, guys, I remember when and we might have mentioned this on the podcast, I don't remember, not necessarily from us, but like I remember when the first batch of DLC or expansion pass tracks came out, people were like, oh, the visuals aren't as good, the grass isn't as detailed, and whatever. This batch looks amazing. Like I sort of see what people were saying on the earlier ones, not that it mattered to me at all.
Same.
But like I sort of see where there's a little less detail on this or that. But like now it's like Waluigi Stadium. It's like, why is this dirt so shiny? What's going on? What's going on? But there's every track is amazing.
They're all incredible. Yeah. It's just like they nailed it. They completely nailed it, and they're not done yet. And they added new characters too. They added Birdo, and there's like 5
and then a
more
whole
slots.
new column. Yeah, more characters down the way. So it's like, are they going to add? Like I saw somebody speculating online. There's no way they're not going to add Samus when they announce Metroid Prime 4 release date. And I was like, oh man, I wouldn't be surprised if
my
there's
heart
a Samus
I've been
track.
hurt so many times on like. people have heard the anguish in me. Don't do this to me.
I know.
It would be pretty gay if they got Link on a cart and on a motorbike.
Oh my
they
god!
Could throw Samus on the
Put Samus on her
track.
gunship. Oh, a gunship themed bike.
That would be amazing. A little gunship.
That would be awesome. A
That would be amazing.
Metroid themed track could be really, really.
Yeah.
cool.
I mean, they have F-Zero. Oh my god, they gotta put Captain Falcon in.
Ooh.
Yeah. A lot of people were speculating that it's probably going to be only characters that have been in previous games, so like PD Piranha and like some of the.
Yeah,
but I'm
that's
like, I wouldn't. I still wouldn't put it past them to add another new character or something. But yeah.
Yeah.
But
Nintendo
I don't
can
know,
act like they always have loved Metroid now. With all the recent releases, so you might as well throw Samus in there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But it's crazy though. It's like this, even with a few more updates left to go, there's almost 100 tracks on this Mario Kart 8
Is that
Deluxe
true?
now.
That's
I think it's
ridiculous.
96 when we crunch the numbers. I could be a little off on that, but I'm pretty sure that's what we landed on.
It's literally different pages worth of selectable. Yeah, like 4.
2 full games,
Yeah.
like whatever was in the game, and then like the next batch of like the the whatever was added in the deluxe version of it or whatever.
Yeah.
It's all of that doubled down on. So it's just
Right.
like, oh my God.
It's nuts.
No, there's definitely, because it's 40 of just new tracks so far.
Yeah, I think it's 48 and 48. So yeah, I think it is 96 at
That's
the moment.
unbelievable.
And then there'll be 3 more batches of 8 tracks each. So 24 more tracks. So there'll be 120 tracks all said and done.
It's like
I think.
Smash Brothers
do that
Ultimate
math right.
style. It's just
Yeah.
like it's just unbelievable how much.
It's
is in
almost
there.
like don't
Which
stop. Keep adding all the tracks. Add them all.
That the ultimate stage select screen is just absurd. It is like there's no way you can tell what anything is. Like, don't even have icons at that point.
Yeah.
Like,
At a point,
the
select
thumbnails are
random.
pointless.
yeah, at a point we're just like, okay, let's play all these new tracks in the batch, and then I'm just like, just pick random, like just let the chips fall where they may.
Yep.
No, because each batch of 4 is its own thing. It's like an album.
It's an album,
You get
yeah.
that, you get used to that
The
progression.
perfect track order. Yeah.
That's how we played them.
Yes,
Yeah, we
that's
played
how
them.
I played.
Yep. Same here. Same here. That's awesome. Well, I guess before we go into some other Nintendo stuff, I'll talk some more Nintendo stuff.
There you go.
I did ended up doing a stream the other night. I've been kind of like, I've talked about this a few times on the podcast here and there, like how I've been just temperamentally like messing with my setup here. Like I've had to reset my computer a couple times, got a 50-foot Ethernet cable. I got a pretty good streaming setup for when I'm playing on my PC, as long as I'm not playing too demanding of a game. But the couple times that I've done some console streams since I've been back home in Michigan, I'm like, I got the position of the TV, and I'm like sitting on the edge of a bed with like my feet propped up on a chair. Like it was just so uncomfortable to do for more than like a little bit. So I was like, let me see if I can get an extension cable and like set up a stream to where I can like kind of kick back further in the bed. Again, still not an ideal streaming setup, obviously. But at the same time, I was like, oh, this would be kind of fun before bed. It's not anything I'm planning on like putting up on YouTube or anything. So it's just like, oh, I'm just going to stream, play some chill games. And I was sitting there looking at Metroid Fusion for a long time. I was like, maybe I'll start this, but I was like, I don't want to be a jackass and like play this for 5 minutes and then be like, actually, I want to play something else. So I was like, let me not do that live and be sort of normal. But I ended up kind of doing that anyways. So I ended up, I fired up. I was like, I'm on the Game Boy Advance already. So I was like, you know what? I've played Mario 3 a million times. Not as much as I've played Super Mario World, but I was like, let me fire up Super Mario Brothers Advanced 4, which is Super Mario Brothers 3.
This naming convention.
But the Game Boy Advance version, which is essentially, playing it, having not played Super Mario All-Stars in a really long time.
Yeah.
It feels like about that level of remake. Like it's sort of got that same colors and pixel art. Like I don't know if it's the same thing or not, but it definitely feels like that kind of level of visual audio overhaul.
Did they take out the voices by that point? Did they not have them?
No, Mario, every time you get a mushroom, just what I needed. Just what I needed. It's so annoying. I'm like,
No.
get the fuck. Every now and then he says
amazing.
something else, but
Objective
it's,
improvement on the
no,
game.
it's terrible.
Sounds
Just
like
what
it
I
was
need.
just
And
what he
even when you're
needed.
getting like the
Yeah.
dumbest item, it's like at least say it when you get the freaking Tanuki suit or something, but not when you get a mushroom. But yeah,
Oh
the
my
voice
God, they
acting gets
did-
a little
that
bit
is in
annoying.
Super Mario Advance 2. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. The voice acting definitely gets a little bit obnoxious, but it's cute and a nice addition or whatever. But I will say also on the visual overhaul is nice. It's sometimes here and there it's like, oh, that sprite looks a little janky, but for the most part it's fine.
Yeah.
But the music is definitely a little iffy at times. Like I'm like, man, those notes are out of key. I don't know, maybe it's something with the emulation on the Switch, but I was like, man, I was like, at first I was like, oh, this is kind of a cool rendition of this, track. And then I was like, oh, wait a minute, that melody is out of key. What's going on here? But anyways, I ended up playing through the first 2 worlds of the game and beating all the levels, like no shortcuts or anything or whatever. But I'll say after playing through the first 2 worlds of that game, there is not a single fun stage on the first 2 worlds of that game. Like I was like playing this, like this game is not fun. I don't think Super Mario Brothers 3 is a good game. And I take that back because as soon as I got to World 3, I was like, oh, the frog suit. This is where I would always like teleport to and where the game starts getting fun. But the levels are just it's almost like Lost Levels style level design. Like it's just random. Like,
Get the hell
just
out of
run
here,
over
Kevin.
here. Here's a secret.
No. Lost
Here's
Levels
a block.
is broken. Don't
duck
freaking
under this
compare it to Lost
white
Levels.
brick.
To the dark side,
It's
Kevin.
I was really not feeling that game
I played
at all.
the worst version of the game, and I really didn't like it.
Yeah, I was just gonna say the fact that it had like these like shittier renditions, like it was reminding me of when I did that Mario Golf 64 stream, and I was just like shitting on Super Rush the whole time. But I just kept talking about like I was like, man, Super Mario World is just so much more fun than this game. This is so much more fun. It's just such a better level design. I just kept talking about it, but it's just the level design in that game. It just feels like more like kind of gimmicky and gotcha tricks and like little like it's just not as fluid and fun to play. Like it's just kind of like the only stage I had fun on, even though I was getting frustrated, was the stage where the sun follows you around and kind of dive bombs you. That was the only stage where I was like, oh, I'm getting my Mario on. Every other stage, I was like, I'm just kind of running aimlessly and going through random doors. And
well, you got to run. I don't know, Kevin. That's how it works.
I don't know. I was a little bit disappointed in playing that game. So I don't know if anybody's played those Super Mario Advance remakes lately, but I still am a little bit tempted to check out, because on the Switch Online version, they added all those like e-card reader levels.
Oh, yeah,
there's 30 stages. I think there's like a few like remakes from the original Super Mario Brothers, but like I'm not kidding around. After, you know how much I've shit on the original Super Mario Brothers over the course of my life. I think the original Super Mario Brothers is better than Mario 3 for sure.
I mean,
better
you can say factual statements all you want. That's
no, Kevin likes
it, but in terms of for me, like
without even believing it.
But in terms of for me, like I enjoy the level design of Super Mario Brothers. I enjoy the level design of Super Mario Brothers better than the first 2 worlds, at least, of Mario 3 by a lot. It was really, I didn't have fun on any of those levels. I can genuinely say that truthfully.
I did not have a single second of an enjoyable experience. While
you can roll back
game.
the tape. Roll back the tape. I didn't even smile once. But anyways, that said, because of that, I ended up hopping over to the Genesis stuff, the stuff on Switch Online, which is only through the expansion pass. But I will say I was, first of all, pleasantly surprised. I was like, man, there are a ton of awesome. That's probably the best of all the retro lineups of the like Switch consoles. I think that Genesis lineup of games, like they got Contra Hardcore, they got Castlevania Bloodlines, they got like just not all the classics. They only have one of the Sonic games, but
Kevin,
Sonic 2, like the best of the bunch.
Myself for you to say that you booted up Sonic and then you're like, you know what?
Best game I've ever played.
I've had
Eat your heart out, Mario.
Fun playing this game. You know what? I think that the camera's not zoomed in enough.
Well, you're semi close. I played a game from Sonic Team. I played some Ristar.
There you go, baby.
And this is actually my first time kind of playing the game in earnest. I own the game on cartridge, if I'm not mistaken. It's been so long since I've gone through my
I'm almost positive
retro
you own
collection.
That game. Yes.
But yeah, it's got the soft box. I remember being like, oh, I gotta hunt down that like a one in good condition.
Yes.
But yeah, I picked up Ristar ages ago, but decided to finally play it finally. But I always loved like the mechanics of the game. Like, you know, and just the overall sprite work. Like it's got that Sonic, really rich, detailed 16-bit Sega Genesis kind of style.
And that was a later Genesis game, and you can tell in the amount of polish they put in that thing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The soundtrack is unreal. So good. And it's got kind of like a Kirby structure to the game. Like
Has
kind
that
of like
energy
little
to it too.
Yeah, it's kind of like, it's almost like a Kirby, and in a way it's kind of has similar level design to Sonic, where there's like multiple tiers. There's like kind of a high road, a middle road, a low road, but because you're a much slower character,
right?
It, to me, the level design fits much better. It's even almost like a little Yoshi's Island at times.
Yeah.
But like, because of the way that you explore and like just your speed and just like the overall pace of the game, it just doesn't lend. And it's not like, oh, I'm going to try to beat Yoshi's Island if you want to get 100% or whatever. Like, oh, I got to get all the coins and I got to not take any damage and I got to collect all these stars and whatever. Where like Ristar's a little more casual in that regard.
Yeah.
Not that I was going for 100% or whatever, but I ended up beating like the first 2-3 zones of the game, which were sometimes, I think some of them were 3 levels, some of them were only 2, but there were just some really clever, awesome boss battles.
Yeah.
There's the main mechanic is like you almost like do like Dalsum style from Street Fighter. You have kind of like stretchy arms.
Yeah, stretchy
but then
arms
those will like kind of
really.
stretch out. And on certain things, you can like grab onto them and like swing around them and like pick up momentum and then launch yourself into the air. Or in my case, launch yourself into the ground and then bounce off the ground. Like it's actually pretty hard to get that timing down.
And there's a lot of things you can kind of like grab onto, you know, things like bars
Like
to grab
tree
onto on the walls or the
branches.
ceiling, or like things you can grab and be lifted up on or whatever.
Yeah, like moving platforms and levers and stuff like that. And like just really, really clever level design, really fun movement mechanics where like, again, you can do that like arm stretch mechanic in one of 8 directions. So like up, down, left, right, or any of the diagonals. And then they're like some of these sometimes like tree branches where you have to like grab that and you can like scale up the trees by grabbing them on like an upward diagonal and keep like flinging yourself, like almost like a monkey would like launch themselves like from branch to branch, tree to tree through momentum.
Feels good.
Like, yeah, it's a really cool mechanic, but it's slow enough to where like it's not like, oh my God, I got to ace this with precision platforming. It's like, oh, it's kind of chill at the same time.
Yes.
But then the boss battles are really fun because it's the same mechanic. You have to like grab them with your arms and then smash your star face body into them.
Yeah.
And I don't know, the enemies like turn into little like Puyo creatures when they die. I don't know if that's actually a tie-in at all to the series, but they do like look like those little creatures.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just ended up having a really fun time with that game and really was like, between, they had, I'm trying to think, they had Shinobi 3. There were just so many
Shinobi
games. Toe
3.
Jam and Earl.
Yeah.
So many games on that Genesis selection where I was like, man, there are a lot of these I've never played. Even some of the stuff where like, okay, I'm not the biggest JRPG fan or whatever, but I might boot up Shining Force or whatever just to see what it's all about, or boot up some of those games in the series. They got Beyond Oasis. They even got some of like the deeper cuts and stuff. So I was really pumped to fire up. I think that was the first or second time I booted up the Genesis stuff and actually looked through the games earnestly and was like, whoa, this is a nice selection here.
Yeah, that's legitimately probably like 80% of some of the top tier Genesis games, realistically, that they've got there on
Comic
that
Zone.
service.
I mean, they
Shining
really have
Force
some
2,
of the best
I
stuff.
think is on there too.
They have
like
2 of the games in the Shining Force series. Yeah.
Really good games.
Yeah, really, really awesome stuff. So I'm looking forward to digging into some of that Genesis stuff. What's your experience with Ristar, Randall, being more of a Sega guy than me growing up anyways?
Well, like I didn't really even play Ristar until like you and I were out looking for games and like, you know, getting it that way basically.
Yeah,
and because it was a stupid, like you said, one of the cardboard box games, and I need to have my games in box. It's such a pain in the ass to get those like handful of late era Genesis games when they wouldn't shell out. So they're in this freaking soft boxes that fall apart because, you know, a bunch of 8-year-olds had their hands on them. So of course there's going to be like 3 of those around these days.
Sweaty hands. Yeah.
But yeah, like I didn't really play it until that point, you know, circa however many years ago, like 10, 15 years ago. But I probably I've still probably only played about as much as you played, like right there of Ristar. And, you know, it's one of those games I always have wanted to go back to and just like, I'm going to be playing Ristar this week and just making my way through that. But it just hasn't happened yet. But I love everything about that game, especially presentation wise.
Yeah. The soundtrack, just so good.
Yeah. It's kind of shocked they never made another one. For what that's worth.
Truly. Yeah. I'd love to see that series get, you know, didn't they make one on like Game Gear or something like that?
You know what? I think maybe it was a port of the Genesis.
I think it is
one,
like
but
kind of
there
like a
is-
half-ass port
Yeah,
or something.
there is.
Yeah, there is
You're
some
right.
other version of it, but still, yeah, definitely a character that has a cool move set that could be
Yes.
explored further in an updated game for sure.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But yeah, I've really been loving playing these Switch games on the Switch Online stuff. Even if the emulation isn't picture perfect or whatever in every single case, it's pretty dang solid. And it's just nice having those save states.
Yeah,
Because again,
absolutely.
like Ristar, I can't remember what kind of save situation it had, but I don't think it had one. So it's like, okay, I'm either going to
might
play
not
this
have.
on an emulator, or I'm
Yeah.
I'm gonna beat it in one sitting, or leave my Genesis on for a week. And it's like, that's just really not happening in the lifestyle I'm living at the moment. So
No.
being able to just fire up a game, beat a level or two, okay, I'm going to leave off here. And then, okay, hey, I feel like doing a chill stream where I'm kicking back in bed and doing these. Some part of me is like, hey, maybe if I do feel like playing Metroid Fusion one night, maybe I will fire that up, or Minish Cap or something, and just be, hey, I'm going to, again, no intention to use it anywhere after the fact, but just, hey, let's just play some Minish Cap and actually play this game for a change. You know?
I know that's another game that I never
Instead of
given
just
a fair
admiring
shot
the
to.
visuals. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. But yeah, speaking of Nintendo handhelds, why don't we kick it over to Randall? Well, I guess handhelds and consoles here.
No, it was
Yeah.
a handheld console.
Yeah, a little bit of both. Their first foray into handheld console territory.
Yeah, so like I'm gonna lead this off with an apology because I'm gonna be talking about the eShop closures.
Yes.
The Wii U and Nintendo 3DS eShop closures, which are scheduled to happen basically at the end of March. I think it's like March 27th. So it's like me being the collector mentality and, you know, everything else that like it tingles certain parts of my brain to know that this is technically not going to be accessible to
Like,
me
this is
after a
it.
certain point, right?
Yeah.
Even though there's tons of stuff on both of those platforms that I've bought and downloaded in the past that have barely, you know, launched or whatever else, but I won't have access. I won't have the opportunity to do that after this point.
Right. They may not exist after this if these companies fold or if whatever, you know, you just
Yes.
don't know what's going to happen with these digital only games.
Yes. You know, and it's, I mean, let alone that, yeah, there are exclusives, digital eShop exclusives,
Oh my God.
not many on Wii U comparatively, but a lot on 3DS.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
Steel
Or
Diver.
even games that just have like
Yeah.
specific features that were like, you know, added to the 3DS version of
Yes.
that game, you know?
Yes. That's what kills me is like specifically with 3DS and, you know, in both cases, kind of the dual screen gameplay is such a unique concept that, you know, that's just doesn't seem the way that the industry is going to move anymore. And so these are like really unique platforms and experiences. And like, this is your last opportunity to get some of this stuff, at least through legal avenues, right? I've heard that they've
Cough, cough.
cough. Yes. You know, and typically in the past, I've not been a big proponent of that stuff, but you know, if we're forced to go down that road, then it is what it is.
Right, right.
But yeah, it's just like, shoot, like this is such a there are unique gameplay experiences specifically on 3DS that won't be replicated. And it's like the end of that era. And they're taking away your opportunity to purchase any of that stuff. And the remaining physical stuff is already shot through the moon. So it's like, it's the end of that road.
And it's only going to get worse. Yeah,
yes,
exactly.
it is. It's going to get worse. You know?
So, what likelihood do you think there is of like an analog pocket 3DS?
Whoa,
or
I would love
something?
that.
Like,
That'd be awesome.
I would
but
pay a lot
man,
of money.
but like, how much of a pay? Like, I'm sure that like getting a touch screen, like
With
A
3D.
dual screen and 3D.
that you can like calibrate too.
Yeah.
Like,
But if you think
I'm
about it though, like down the line, like you know how technology just
It could be,
leapfrogs
yeah.
itself over and over. So
Definitely.
it's like down the line that might just be cheap to 3D screens. Every phone has a 3D screen on it. You know,
Sure.
Yeah.
who knows?
But it is a. This is your last chance of getting the first party, like everything was supported and play tested and like
Yes.
built specifically for this, and it's not like a
Right,
stopgap
right.
measure of, well, this is the only way that we can archive
play 'em
these
now.
things or have them playable. Like there are so many different like third party after the fact consoles that can play, you know, bespoke cartridges or ROMs or anything now, but like these are weird systems. Like
Extremely weird.
there's
Yeah.
like Virtual
Niche.
Boy emulation has been like at a standstill for decades, and like
which should have happened on 3DS. God damn it, but it never did.
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah, truly. That would have been perfect. That could have even made it even cooler. Yeah.
Yes.
Missed opportunity.
Yes, but
Wario Land. Anyway,
open the eShops back up.
but that is the thing. Is like it's such specific hardware.
Yeah.
It's not going to be easy to replicate. And like John's saying, like maybe we'll get a third party solution, but it'll probably be, years and years down the road past whatever patent that Nintendo probably has, and their army of lawyers probably made sure that patent's going to go as long as humanly possible, even though they're not selling it anymore. So it just feels very, end. It's just like this harsh end point in my collector brain that wants to have access to as much as possible, does not like that. And then on top of that, what's even more painful is there's DLC on a lot of these like 3DS games. But the way that Nintendo handled DLC isn't like modern DLC where you just open up the storefront of whatever platform and say, yes, I'm going to buy that DLC. No, in 3DS games, you had to, if you had the cartridge, pop in that specific cartridge, open it up. If you hadn't started the game, you probably don't have the ability to just select from a menu to buy the DLC there. You had to play through parts of that game to unlock the ability to buy the DLC and download it. And then when you download it, you have to either sit there and watch it download or download later. Make sure you close the eShop first, though. Otherwise, it won't download yet. So it's very one by one.
That 3DS eShop was jank for sure.
And on top of that, in the 3DS eShop, you'd buy things on the eShop, but you can't tell that you've purchased something on the eShop until you click in individually on each individual game. Like, if you're scrolling through a list of on-sale games, there's no indicator for you to see whether or not you had already bought it unless you click into them individually and see, oh, yes, I've already purchased this. It's grayed out for me to buy it. But you have to click, and then it's loading, like the loading in the eShop is like seconds long between these things.
And it probably boots you back to the start of the list, not back to where you were.
It's got a little bit better on that, but not by much. So it's all of that. And, I withstood that enough to get like all of the, Ace Attorney extra story stuff and some of the DLC for the Fire Emblems that came out on 3DS.
Oh,
and,
yeah, shit.
There's things like the weird
I wasn't thinking of some of
one-off.
those big DLCs, yeah.
Yeah, and there's like, this was early DLC, as far as Nintendo was concerned, right? Before,
Right.
like, in Wii, they were very much just like putting their tippy toe in. They didn't like, and that was a little clunky, right? So with 3DS, they continued further down that, but they were still like, for example, Rusty's Real Deal Baseball.
Hell
is this,
yeah, baby.
John, did you play this?
No, I didn't, but I love it as a concept of just, the biggest divorced dad energy.
Yes.
Of, like, making this poor dog's life miserable.
Yes. It's unbelievable that it's actually... It's crazy that that's a Nintendo. It's so much more a Sega thing and how, like, I don't know, like, dark and weird it is.
Yeah.
That game deserves a bigger cult following.
Yes, it does.
Unbelievable.
So, but that game, for those that don't know, is all a collection of DLC. So Rusty owns this old failing storefront. And like, he doesn't have money and his family's falling apart and he's about to get divorced. He just really needs this money, man. He just needs you to buy a game today, man. Just like, but then you can haggle with him, but you're haggling for the real world price you're going to pay for each one of these pieces of DLC. Like, you're actually haggling what you're going to pay in like real currency to buy these individual pieces of DLC, which is such a crazy concept.
It's insane.
That would never happen
That's
now.
nuts.
It is unbelievable.
Like, even in like a free-to-play environment, I don't even know if that could happen.
Yeah, like they would never do that now. But that's what they tried out then. And like, I was like, oh, shoot, there's still a couple of these that I hadn't bought. Let me haggle poor Rusty down from $4 down to $1.50. Sorry, dude.
Like, hey, Rusty, the eShop's about to close, man.
And he's
let me get these on the cheap.
Pay for food. I can't
Let me
make
get
this
these on the
price
cheap.
go any lower.
That's what he does, and he's just like he starts like sweating, and like the music changes to get like really like dour and like sad.
Oh, that's
the
amazing.
Darkest thing, but
That's amazing.
it's
That's so
really
not
good.
Nintendo. Yeah.
Oh my god, Rusty's Real Deal Baseball is a treasure of a game.
It is. And it's all just like little like baseball mini games at the end of the day.
Yes, it's oh my god.
I was gonna say, it kind of has some like Wario energy.
It does.
in a way, like WarioWare.
Yeah.
Kind of just bonkers off the wall. Even like Elite Beat Agents is what I'm picturing in
Sure.
my head. The way you're describing some of this.
The wackiness of it all. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. So there's things like that only exists within this atmosphere where the eShop still exists.
Yeah.
Or like Attack of the Friday Monsters, which is just like this.
Oh yeah.
This like I think that game is kind of like
Forgot
a little
about that.
masterpiece of its own. To be honest, it's like it's like its own little like Japanese family friendly movie, just compartmentalized in like this 3-hour experience, and it's just really like genuine and like heartfelt, and like I loved that experience of that game, and a lot of people share that sentiment. And it's only like $7 on the eShop, but like that never came out physically. That's not going to be a thing otherwise. It never
You're
came
not
out
gonna
on
be able
another
to hunt
platform.
it down later. Yeah. And like John was saying, we're not likely to get some kind of third party, analog
Especially
masterpiece 3D system, at least not anytime soon.
And that would just be for ROMs, because you're not going to be able to buy these.
Right. Yeah, you'd have to still
digital-only
manage to track them
titles.
down. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, you'd have to load them somehow, or I don't know what that would look like. And to a much lesser extent, same with Wii U with the dual screen stuff. So it's just whew.
Yeah, because there's even games that, like, as much as I'm like, I've definitely, as much as I've said, I'm not going to rebuy all the Wii and Wii U ports over to Switch, like, I'm still like, I end up getting most of them. But like Pikmin 3, I'm like, that still seems like it would play better with the dual screens. Like, I'm not going to get the Switch version because it doesn't even seem like the best version of that game. And I've done that with a few other, I'm drawing a blank, but I know there's been a couple others where I'm like, I kind of want that, but like, it doesn't seem like it would be that much better on Switch.
The best version.
Yeah, even that, with the map,
The best version of Wind Waker, and as far as I'm concerned, is that one where you have like your map screen is on like the Wii U tablet, right? Like, or Twilight Princess,
Exactly. That's such a nice feature, especially for Zelda games, or even like a Metroid game. That would be so nice to be able to, let me just look at the map without pausing it every 5 seconds,
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Yeah. Yes. All that sort of stuff.
Wii, right? Yeah.
Yes. So,
but I think maybe I'm thinking of the Castlevania games on DS, because they had like the map on the bottom screen, action on the top, or maybe
it's
the other
amazing.
way around. But
it's so good.
It's really nice.
Those were so
good.
Maybe
just
maybe
not having
Nintendo
to dive into those.
Go back to that, but I don't know. Probably not.
Yeah, just not like negating that, like diving in and out of menus all the time.
Yeah.
And just making it like a glance instead of a pause and unpause and go through the things and equip stuff and whatever.
Yeah.
Just such a nice feature.
Different experience.
Yeah, you got me tempted. I know, like, by the time this episode comes out, the eShops will be closed, but we got a couple days left at the time of recording this. I'm like, do I want to tempt fate? Because they did, or are currently doing, but at the, again, at the time of this coming out, it's already said and done, but they did kind of discount a lot of these games. Like I saw they had the Shovel Knight Treasure Trove was like $5 or $6, and they did add like some 3D depth to those games. Like nothing crazy, but some 3D effects. So I'm like, for $6, $5, like to have all of the Shovel Knight stuff in one place on my 3DS, like that's tempting. And to throw a few extra bucks to Yacht Club, like I wouldn't be mad about that.
I'm deeply considering getting the Fantasy Life DLC.
Yes, I did. I did that. Yeah, that was one of the ones I'm like, shit, I'm going to pay full price for this because everyone says the DLC is amazing too, and it's like $8 and it's like this whole expansion.
Oh my
pack.
God. Yeah. No, I'm doing that as soon as we hang up.
Yeah.
Got to break out. Oh, I got my 3DS right out on the table here. I was going to say, I got to dig that thing out, but it's right here.
Star Fox 64 in 3D, and it's like into the screen 3D. There's just things you can't replicate. Like,
yeah, and that 3D, I know I've mentioned it on the podcast before, and we probably have all talked about it, but it's really good. Like,
yes.
And some of those games, like, even in like Super Mario 3D Land, you know, there's like little touches where it's like, yeah, you don't need it to play, but when you crank it up, you're like, oh, I don't even know if I would have seen that secret without that 3D effect kind of making that tunnel
it enhances it.
Pop a little bit. Yeah,
it does.
So
it's not just a gimmick in some of those use cases. It's really not.
Yeah. Like in Shovel Knight, maybe it is a little bit gimmicky or just visually cool.
Fun to look at.
Yeah, but like it's like some stuff it actually like enhances the gameplay or changes like what they can do visually, or even Link Between Worlds, you know, like that. Like there were so many of those secrets. I need to go back to that game actually. That's why I have my 3DS actually out. Yeah, but like like thinking about like there were so many areas where I wouldn't have known I could go around that corner if I was in the 2D like on the wall painting mode, if I didn't have that 3D depth to kind of see that there was a corner there. So
right.
Yeah, it definitely enhances the gameplay too. So, oh man,
death of platforms.
Did you grab anything on the Wii U, or was it mostly a 3DS extravaganza?
It was mostly 3DS. I think maybe it was like one of the Resident Evil games. I'm like, I already own this, but now I can get it digitally for $3 sort of arrangement.
Yeah.
You know, there's a couple of those. Like,
yeah.
But even then, it's weird because you have to add gift card balance to it. You can't just, you know, connect your credit card anymore. There's all kinds of hoops to jump
Like, you can't just buy the game. You got to buy the points and then,
Yeah, it's...
Nintendo. Still figuring it out. Figuring it out all these years later.
Yeah.
But, well, I know we've talked about this in the past, too, but hopefully our Switch libraries will... hopefully they'll just keep carrying this over as one consistent ecosystem from here on in.
It's a good joke to end on, Kevin.
Yeah. We'll keep our fingers crossed, and we won't hold our breath for that one, so... I know. I was just thinking about like, what's the point of beefing up my physical Switch collection when it's just going to maybe be irrelevant someday.
Could resell that stuff at least.
Hey, whatever. We're also still talking about collecting NES games from, 30, 40 years ago. So who knows?
Physical stuff can maintain value.
Exactly. But yeah, I think we can probably wrap things up there this week unless we got any more to kick the ball around on any of those topics there.
Got nothing left.
No, sir.
Nice. I know we've definitely all been playing quite a few other games, so we'll table some of that stuff for a future recording session and whatnot. But yeah, until next week, you can find us on the internet at pursuingpixels.com. And otherwise, we'll catch you next week. And until then, take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Go from regular sports to esports, baby.
Esports.
Hell yeah. I'm in that competitive mindset. I'm in that grind set.
I love that because it's online multiplayer. We're just calling it esports. That's really good too.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's our level of esports.
Yeah, if you really want to see an amateur... I will say there was a great moment where we were in the lobby when it was Mikey, me, and Mike James, and like of the two other people who were like just in the chat on our team, one of them like opened up in the lobby is like, "How we all doing tonight, folks?" And the other guy just responded with, "Man, I'm so faded right now." I was like, "All right, we are going to win this round.
We're on the right team, baby. We're on the right team." On the right side of history with this one.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
I mean, I'll be honest. When I'm playing Splatoon 3 ranked, I am usually pretty far gone.
Hey.
The game's so, like, hectic, though. Like, how do you pull that off?
Because when you get in the zone, oh, man.
Fair.
Like, I'll get into my strategy on the cast because I've found a way that is really enjoyable for me to play, and I'm sure infuriating to play against.
Nice.
The teens are upset with you.
Oh, even my own team. Like, it doesn't always translate to wins, but it translates to John having fun.
Nice.